Well, good evening. I want to welcome everyone to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting as of April 22nd, 2024. And first order of business is always approval of our minutes from our previous meeting from March 25th, 2024. Everyone's had a chance to review. If you find any amendments or adjustments or mistakes, we'd like to bring those forward. And if not, we'd like a motion to go ahead and approve those minutes from March 24th.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Second. Go ahead and roll call, Megan.
Aye.
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 Lacey Colbert. Aye. Alan Goldberg. Adam Moreno.
Aye.
Renfro.
Aye.
Chad Dixon.
Aye.
And Leslie Powell.
Okay, thank you. Moving right ahead, we have no scheduled visitors or guests to speak. We have no unfinished business to review, so we'll move right on into our new business this evening. Letter A, which is a zoning amendment 24-0004. Property owner is Lindell Preston Bennett Williams and Rhonda Marie Williams. Property location is approximately 6.45 acre parcel abutted by East Hartley Road to the north. Existing zoning is R1A Single Family Estate District. Requested zoning is RSF1 Single Family District. Cameron, if you'd like to bring us up to speed here.
Yes, the application is to rezone approximately 6.45 acres from R1A single family to RSF1 single family zoning district. The property is currently vacant at this time. There are no overlay districts that affect this property. The property can be serviced by city water and sewer and has capacity to be extended to this property for development by the developer. At the time of development and submittal of a preliminary plat, the required storm hydrology report and traffic impact study would be required to be submitted. The surrounding zoning is agriculture to the north in the county in the school. Single family residential to the east in the county. Single family residential to the south in the city. And then single family residential and industrial zoning to the west in the city. The comprehensive plan did recommend a future land use of single family residential based at the time of the adoption of the plan. The requested zoning would be an appropriate zoning according to the comprehensive plan. Based on the staff report and findings, all requirements have been met for the approval of this zoning request.
Thank you, Cameron.
Yep.
Do we have the applicant or a representative of the applicant here this evening? Would you like to speak? Sure. No, okay. Your name and address, please.
My name is John Sayer. I live at 1301 East Daniel Street. Just wanted to get up and say, this property was all one piece together. It's been that way for a long time. And the owner, Mr. Williams, would like to, again, split this up, not necessarily in half, but kind of in half, and have residential single-family housing along Hartley. And then obviously the next zoning amendment that we'll talk about will be different. But it does match the zoning that's around it on all three sides. So again, he's very cognizant of the fact that we'd like to keep the multifamily stuff to the back and keep the single family residential up along Hartley to make aesthetically correct. So I believe that's probably all I have. So do you have any questions for me?
If we do, we'll call you back up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next section is where we will open it up for public comment. If you could, please, we try to stay at about a 5-minute limit just for your comments towards the commission, and we'll take those into consideration and try to answer what questions that we can. But keep in mind, this is a zoning request only. We have no plat. We have no specifics. We might have an idea what's going on, but we don't have anything on paper. We're just doing the zoning tonight. So I will open up to the public, and anyone would like to step forward. Sir, would you like to go first? Yeah, come up to the mic. And if you would give your name and address, please.
Thank you all, and my name's Chris Aiken, and I live at 2600, so I'll be the poor chap there, right, kind of on that postage stamp that will be circumscribed on all, on three sides by,
Sir, is that 2600 Hartley or?
I'm sorry, 2600 East Hartley
Okay,
Road.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of, the one who's sort of squarely in the center of the crosshairs of this proposed development. I can tell you that, my partner and I, when we moved into our lot, we did move in with the understanding that this would be, probably be developed if we were to stay in our property for any length of time. With that said, we were mindful of the fact that it was single family estate, which seemed to us to be consonant with the sort of property that neighbors that lot. You see that I think the preliminary report prepared by the staff mentions that this would be that I'm maybe getting ahead of myself to the multifamily part of this. But it does mention how that would provide the apartments would provide a good buffer between the higher density single family neighborhood and the commercial industrial areas to the south of the parcel. And I think, I just wanted to point out that what's left out of that obviously is the other people who would not enjoy such buffer. So I'm thinking the residences to the east, obviously, the agricultural land to the north, obviously our property, which is situated right in the center of the proposed development. I'm also thinking of the lots, the 5-acre lots to the south, which are, large single family estates. You'll have to forgive me, I'm kind of ignorant of zoning ordinances and how this works. I started to look into some of the definitions in play here, and to me, the single family estate, which is defined something to the effect of a transition between single family and agricultural land. To me, that sort of aptly fits this area, and forgive my ignorance if you all disagree, but to me, we have subdivisions along Hartley Road to the west of this development, and by the time we reach this lot, we are really transitioning into single family estate, larger 1.5 acre and 5-acre lots. So I just want the commission to be mindful of that, and of the fact that when you spend time in this area, how Hartley Road, this corridor along Hartley Road really does feel kind of separate from Highway 14. And my understanding, and I know we're not this is just a zoning amendment. My understanding is that, there would be no access. I've talked to a lot of people along Hartley Road, some of whom have told me that at one point the city considered building a road along somewhere in, where the storage unit facility is, that would connect Highway 14 to Hartley Road around the area of the school, and that just never, for whatever reason, never panned out. I think if had that panned out, that'd be more plausible, more logical place to position the kinds of developments that are being proposed here. But I will tell you, having gone up and down Hartley Road and talked to dozens of people, I don't think that's too much of an overestimation. One of the concerns, obviously, for people along Hartley Road as you get to the west is that there's no sidewalk for several blocks east of 14th Avenue. These are houses that have very, I don't know if they're 25-foot frontages on these houses. People routinely wouldn't hold this against the developer that people speed on Hartley Road, certainly, but you talk to people along Hartley Road, and it's there are already a lot of concerns, I will tell you, about safety, about traffic safety along Hartley Road, given you have a 4-way stop at 14th Avenue. that has visibility issues. You have a hill there that has visibility issues. People tend to go down that really in the worst possible segment of that road where there's no sidewalk and there's very, very narrow front yards. So that's one of the things I also wanted to mention. And I didn't realize we had cue cards. I've run out of time, I guess.
Well, you will have a chance if you'd like to speak at the second one as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, please? Come forward, sir.
I'm Eddie Chanel, 1395 South 20th Avenue. So about a quarter mile west of East Elementary. And I kind of add to what he mentioned, he's concerned about the traffic. Just to give you my experience with this, living on South 20th. There's a lot of speeding going on here. It's a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, and generally the speed is between 35 up to 50 and 60 even. So if you add apartment complex, a residential district, it's going to add to this problem, I feel. And so I just want to add that. And it would be nice if they could get on to 14 rather than having to take Hartley. That's will increase our problem. And the 3 times the last couple of months, the bus driver lets off 8 kids at our street. And the 3 times people have driven right by her. And she'd honk, and of course then it was too late. But there's 4 kids that have to cross for the bus to go to the north. So this really creates a dangerous situation. And I'm afraid it might get worse with this development. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? You got one coming there.
I'm John Mitchell. I live at 804 South 10th Avenue. And we're talking about Hartley, but then it goes for a short distance, becomes 11th, and then becomes 10th Avenue. I've lived there 25 years and watched the development of this city. And I've watched the speeding on my street since I've lived there. I never see the police out there to slow anybody down. And I can only expect with the further development for it to get worse if the city doesn't do something to relieve the pressure going on 10th Avenue, down East Robertson, all the way to the bottom. I found out about this just last night myself. I drove over there today. I saw the sign there, but I imagine a lot of families on East Robertson are very unaware what's going on up there. We have lots of children in my neighborhood, right at East Rand, before those 2 new houses were built there. Multiple times cars get in when it's icy. It's dangerous for me to get my own mail. It's not a small town anymore, I understand, but it is a safety issue, as my friends here have just mentioned.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Besh, 70753 Cash Spring Road. My concern is the same as theirs as far as the traffic goes and the safety, because they do blow by every bus. These kids are coming around the corner of the bus. They don't have any vision of oncoming traffic. One just steps out. It's a done kid. That's their life. Over with. I'm going to come at this at a different angle, although I agree with everything that's been said. In my experience, I used to work with the sheriff's department down in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana. My experience, their job is to get people in these residents, okay? And once they realize that people aren't coming in or don't have the money that they're requesting for this residents, these things usually turn into a Section 8 resident, where they start bringing in lower income people. prime people. Okay, my concern is about that kids at the school, these kids walking home. You know, these kids from Springfield get missing all the time. The little girl, I forget when I first moved here, I forgot her name. Got taken right off the schoolyard. Guy blew her head off with a 12 gauge. Not 15 minutes later. That's what I'm concerned about. You know, I don't know if these residents, single family residents are going to be rentals or are they going to be bought and single families and residents are going to be there for a long time, or moving the multi-family in the back, not getting the rooms done and then bringing in the low income people. Okay, this is my main concern with these kids gone missing forever. Okay, and that's what I have to say about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Thank you. Monty Horning, 1509 East Hartley. And I speak for 4 registered voters. There's not really anything I can say that hasn't already been said tonight. The concerns, the infrastructure of Hartley, all the way down to the square across Robertson, will not support any more traffic. It will not. My son-in-law's dog got hit on Hartley, and although it was his responsibility to keep the dog in, it was hit as a direct result of the poor traffic management out there. And it's going to be a kid next time, getting off a bus or playing out in front of their house. And that's pretty much what I have to say. This is a horrible idea. I would normally support a landowner having the privilege to do what they want. But across from the school already put a traffic load on that road that it was not intended to have. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I live at 1507 East Hartley Street we call it, but I guess it's road. I've lived there for 38 years.
What's your name? sir?
Don Ligon, Ligon. And like everyone else said, the traffic is terrible on that road. It didn't used to be until the school come in, which we need the schools. But when the school come in, they said they were going to reroute the buses the other way and keep them off Hartley, which they didn't. But traffic does fly down that road. The police do patrol it once in a while, but not very often. And my only concern is, I know you're talking about the purple right now, but behind it, they're wanting to do multifamily. Can you tell me what that is? Can someone tell me what they mean by multifamily?
We'll discuss that at the second point. We're
Well,
not
that's
allowed
what
to
I mean,
talk it right
because
now.
if it's a bunch, like 100 units and 2 cars to the unit, the only way that's only going to be one access on Hartley. You can't get to 14. So you're either going to go left if you're going to city, which everyone does, or you got to go right to Sailor Road, I think it is. And my only objection is if it's, I don't know, what is it zoned now? WAR 1A?
R1A.
What is it?
currently
What
at,
is the,
yes.
what is the proposal to go to?
What we're talking about right now is RSF1, single family.
What is that? Lot size? What is R1A? If you're going to keep it, that's what it should be kept at. That's what is originally zoned. We don't need these houses packed in there. Keep it at the what it was originally asked for, because you're getting too much traffic. And I know it's not your problem, traffic. When I moved there wasn't nothing there. I didn't know the school was going, and I love living there, but that traffic is tough, and you start packing more down, they're coming down Hartley. At one time, I got stop signs put up at the intersection above me, and the police took it down because the bus drivers complained that they had to stop there. That did slow traffic down a little bit, but I've lived there 38 years now, and it's just getting worse every day. I didn't mean to come talk here, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Feel free.
I'm Dan Shoemaker and I live at 2610 East Hartley Road. And we've got White River to the east of us. And if you put apartments on the back half of that and they're 2-story, they'll be looking in my backyard. And reason we bought that place 13 years ago is because it was acreage. And I think it should be kept that way and not changed. Also, that piece of property, if you go to the school and if they want to put a road in there, that's the drainage for those 2 blocks. Goes right down the center of that. I don't know where you will go with the water because they had to put a containment pit to slow it down when they redone it with the school. And it's still got water backed up in it if you get a 3 or 4 inch rain halfway up the hill each way. So you got a drainage problem there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? I see no further movement, so we'll go ahead and close the public portion of this particular amendment for this particular piece of property, and I will open it up to the commission for questions, comments from everyone. Anyone? Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, first question is, I think I can tell by the color coordinating, but the U parcel right in the middle of it, is that RSF 1 or is that R1A right now? Right there, yeah.
That's the same on R1A, back when this was all annexed.
It was all one, yeah. Gotcha. That was my only question.
Okay, thanks. You're just fortunate to bid, aren't you?
I just want to wait my turn.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Few questions, comments. I'll start with city staff. Do we know the ADT on Hartley? And I understand that's under Ozark Special Road District's jurisdiction.
Yes, that is under Ozark Special Road District. Are you asking about the existing trips today? Is that-
Yeah. Just
Off the top of
approximate.
my head, no, I don't have that information. It's something that would be determined when they go to plating the property.
Okay. Also, Cameron, currently it appears that 22nd Avenue dead ends there at the north end. Would there be a requirement, if and when the property would develop to the north, would there be a requirement potentially for them to extend 22nd Avenue to Hartley?
Are you talking about if this property developed?
Yeah.
Potentially, we just have to evaluate kind of the use and what's going on, but I don't know why 22nd was never extended. I suspect it's because it only served the property to the west and east. Empire Electric or Liberty on the west and a storage facility on the east. At the time, that developer probably just chose to end it where they ended that. That's been developed several years ago. And so I'm not sure the thought process, but potentially that could extend. I'm not sure there's going to be a requirement to extend that. It just depend on kind of the development of that area and what might occur.
I didn't know if subdivision regs would require that extension or not.
Well, potentially it would, depending on the development that they're required to have either 2 points of access or meet the fire code of 1 access with sprinkling the homes. It'll depend on the density and what would be required there.
Okay. All right. And then I guess just a few general comments. I mean, I travel this section maybe 2 or 3 times a month. I don't do it on a daily basis, so I don't have the exposure to it that the folks that spoke do. But you know, the speeding issues and the bus issues with the children and the passing the bus. I mean, that's an enforcement issue, and you know, we can't penalize the property owner or the developer for bad behavior of residents and commuters that go down Hartley. If it's an issue, I hope you're reporting it to the police department. I hope you're calling the school district. I mean, passing a bus, I mean, that's a serious matter, and it needs to be stopped. So if the police department's not aware of it, then they're not gonna, potentially increase patrol. So that's really falls in enforcement. And I mean, as far as, the potential for low income families and stuff, I don't think it's fair to characterize them all as all low income or criminals and going to cause problems. And I think any of those existing homes along Hartley could, a low income home, where people could purchase that home through different means. So I don't think that's a real good comparison, but I think it's reasonable. You're right there by the school. I mean, there's potential for maybe, I mean, you have restrictions of the property. You got front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, backyard setbacks. You have the drainage channel that the gentleman mentioned in the middle. You can't fully develop the entire parcel. So, you're going from half acre lots to maybe 8 acre lots. They may be bigger than that. We don't know. So, I mean, you're talking maybe 20 additional homes over what could be built there. So, I think this is an appropriate place for single family residents, and I think it seems reasonable.
Thank you, Chad. Anyone else? Oh, that had to go.
So the first gentleman that spoke, can you tell us what your land is at your house, sir? Like, yeah, like you half acre, what is your actual, I was just curious. That's my first thing. 1.3 acres. Okay. I mean, here's my one big concern, and I listen to your things, Chad. My concern is I look at South Street for South Elementary and kids crossing the road there. It took so long for us to get a crosswalk there. And I mean, I'm thinking if we put in just this, I calculate if we put if they could get everything single house in it, that'd be 35 homes in this. So realistically, it's probably somewhere between 25 and 30. And I mean, it's just so tempting for kids to want to cross the street. And I mean, as you guys said, the speeding and that stuff. And I mean, and that's a concern. So I know that's kind of outside of the scope, but there would definitely have to be a crosswalk or something. We don't have crossing guards really a lot in Ozark schools. And I think that's something we'd have to definitely look at if a community went in there, because I mean, my kids go to East. I drive that every day. I mean, I know I can't get there before 3:55. Otherwise I sit in a giant line. I mean, that's just my big concern is that crosswalk piece, because kids are going to walk across there. But, if it stayed as is, I mean, we're talking an extra 15 homes for that area. So if it stayed as kind of is, I did the math, it's an extra 15 homes for that section. And I'm just talking just that section. So, depending on what that is, I think, if that did go, we got to figure out a crosswalk piece there, because those kids will want to walk across the street. Even though there's a bus that take them there, it's just so easy for them to. That's my only 2 cents on it. Thank you for answering that question, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I had a question actually for Mr. Sayer. The potential is to build up to 35 homes there. The minimum as it stays now is I got 14. But do you have any insight as to what the developer is planning in the number of homes? Because there's going to be an easement that serves the next part of the meeting, and that you can't build anything there. So that's going to be probably, we're looking at maybe 32 homes maximum.
So your original question is how many homes are they planning on getting
Do you have
on
any
just this
insight?
piece here? The plan right now is 17. That's what we have conceptually.
That was why.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say something else?
Sure.
I just want to again bring up the fact, there will be a traffic study done by a professional traffic engineer. So if there are upgrades, I mean, they take the numbers that are going up and down Hartley, and they make sure that the infrastructure, meaning the road, will meet that, which is an entailed deal. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So if there are improvements that the traffic engineer requires, Mr. Williams will have to make those improvements to Hartley along the piece of his property. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. I mean, he's not thinking if the traffic engineer says you need to do this, he's going to be held to do that. So I just want to be clear with everybody that is going to have to happen. So that's all.
Thank you. Adam, go ahead.
I didn't know if anybody had even an estimate, because my kids went to East. I believe that the school zone limit starts well east of this property line. Correct? Do we have,
I think that.
I didn't know if we could point it out, but
Mhm.
because I go there all the time, and recently when I drove by after we got the packet, I'm just wondering if that, just as a citizen, how do those get decided on where those go? Is that an Ozark Special Road District? Where do those decide when they change speed limit zones like that for school zones? Can staff answer that?
Generally, that is evaluated by the Ozark Special Road District and the police department together. If it's a city street, then it'll be our Public Works Department and the police department.
So if, let's say, in the future, it needs to be moved or changed, there's proper channels to do that, and it would go through Ozark Special Road District for that, for Hartley.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that happens often, but it does. It's happened a few times since I've been with the city where people would make requests to evaluate the speeding. They'll have officers sit out there and kind of monitor speeding, just get kind of an idea. And then if they see a justification in changing that, they will adjust the speed limit out in that area.
Okay, that was my question.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Quick question. As far as like speed goes, that's one of my concerns too, is safety and speeding. Is there anything that residents can do to help enforce that in the absence of like, if there's no officers around all the time to monitor, like, do they install speed bumps or I'm not sure what options there are.
Yeah, they can definitely reach out to the police department or the Ozark Special Road District. The police would be the ones to determine about the speeding. And then the Ozark Special would determine about any kind of speed bumps or something on that thoroughfare.
Mhm. I haven't heard from Lacey. Do you have anything? Okay. I don't want to leave anyone out. Pete, you good? Take a moment to consider. Any more questions or comments are very welcome from the commission. If not, no, sir, I'm sorry, we've closed the public portion. I'm sorry.
I do have one more question for Mr. Sayer. Where would you guys consider coming out? Have you got conceptually, have you guys figured out where that exit onto Hartley would be? And I'm just thinking where the buses come out, like that's just kind of what I'm trying to picture in my head.
Sure.
So.
There would be actually two exits onto Hartley. One would be to, well, about 150 feet in from the west property line. And then one entrance onto Hartley to the east. That would be around, say, another 150 foot in.
And just so the commission knows that, so if you look there, can you pull that back up again for a second, Cameron? I'm sorry. So basically, when at the times of busyness at the elementary, what they'll do is they'll force, so the buses will come in on that right side. Sorry, wait for it to come back out. So the buses will kind of come in on that right side there. If you kind of see that bus loop there, there's some cars there. That'll be where the buses come in and out of. But then they now force feed, so the school put it in, then now force feed everyone for pickup into that parking lot to the left, and it kind of zigzags back and forth. So they'll come in that way and then they'll come out that way. So there's kind of backup and, there's backups, obviously, especially at that peak time, I would say probably right around 3:10 or so. And then in the morning, it doesn't usually get as bad, but just so everyone kind of knows what that looks like. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I think we've heard from everyone. If there's any more comments or questions, please present them. If not, we would be looking for a motion. Yes, ma'am.
With the size it is now, I think you said you did the math, it would hold about 14 homes. Is that right? With,
Right.
okay, yeah.
Well, and that doesn't
And then you have an
include
easement.
infrastructure, so you'd have to
Right.
subtract infrastructure and easements.
Okay, thank you.
And just to clarify, all that will be done during the plating process, and it would again have to be cleared and approved and follow the traffic study and there's a whole lot of aspects to this over and above the rezoning process, so. No. Chad, yes.
If there's no other
Is
comments or
everybody good? Just
questions
making
from
sure.
commission,
Okay.
I move to recommend approval of zoning amendment 24-0004 as presented in the report and by staff.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Megan, when you're ready, roll call, please.
Aye.
Alexa Powell, absent. Chad Dixon,
Aye.
Jeff Harrison,
Aye.
Stacy Colbert. Aye. Trevor Branch.
Aye.
Alan Goldberg. And Susan Daniels.
Aye.
Thank you, Megan. Okay, moving to letter B, which would be the second application, is zoning amendment 24-0005. Property owner is Lyndall Preston Bennett Williams and Rhonda Marie Williams. Property location, approximately 6.63 acre parcel, approximately 315 feet south of East Hartley Road and north of 2183 State Highway 14 East. Existing zoning is R1A Single Family Estate District. Requesting zoning is R3 Medium Density Multifamily District. Cameron, if you will expound upon that, please.
Yes, the application is to rezone approximately 6.63 acres from R1A single family to R3 medium density residential. The property is currently vacant at this time. There are no overlay districts that affects this property. The property can be serviced by city water and sewer and has capacity to be extended to the development by the developer. At this time, this is a zoning application. A further investigation of a storm analysis and traffic study would be required, and that would be associated with a preliminary plat once submitted. The surrounding zoning to the north is RSF1 or single family. To the east is single family. To the south is zoned commercial and industrial, and to the west is zoned industrial and single family residential. The comprehensive plan did note this recommended use as single family based on the original tract of land. The requested zoning would be an appropriate zoning classification as it would provide a transitional zoning between the single family higher or lower intensity uses to the commercial and industrial uses, more intense uses to the south. Based on the staff report and findings, all requirements have been met for the approval of this zoning request.
Thank you, Cameron. Would you like to make any comments to this section at this point?
Yes, I need to state my name.
Yeah,
I'm
let's do it
John
again.
Sayer and I live at 1301 East Daniel Street, Ozark. Cameron, you said that to the west, and I could be wrong, I may have heard you wrong, but you said to the west that the zoning that it met up with this piece is, it was single family and commercial?
Sorry if I misspoke. It's actually industrial and single family.
Okay,
You've got an industrial here and then, of course, your
well, it would be our, yeah,
Yes,
our single
yep.
family. I'm sorry, I
Yep.
misunderstood. Okay. No, I don't have anything to add to it. Do you have questions for me?
Not at this time.
All right.
Thank you.
I did.
Yes.
No, I'll have to, well, you have to do our turn. Our turn hadn't come yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
I will say on our, well, I'll wait and do that later. Yeah, let me make myself a note. Hold on. Okay, as before, we'll go ahead and open this up to the public for the request for basically the south portion of this property to be rezoned to R3 medium density to the public, and anyone is free to come speak. Okay,
I've never been to one of these before. Shannon Elliott. Yeah.
Well, I'm short too, guys. Shannon Elliott, 1396 South 20th Avenue. I am just catty corner from this property. I will say that whenever I moved to Ozark from Springfield, I'll never move back to Springfield ever again. I've loved Ozark ever since. Whenever I first moved here, I moved out on the Plantation Apartments over on 22nd off of CC. And at that time, what is it called? The weird streets that go through there now? They're the stop sign. Yeah, the emerging diamond. That was not there. We had, I believe it was a 3-way stop at the corner of 22nd and CC. It may have been a 4-way. It was a complete disaster. And then you guys, rearranged it to put the merging diamond in there. There's a stoplight right there at that come and go. And then later on, after I had moved, all those apartments came on both sides. We have those giant apartments next to those farm homes. And then we have multiple different apartments to the north of there. I feel like that area alone, the traffic is maxed out for that area. So us having a situation on Hartley with everything that everybody's mentioned here, traffic wise, there's no way that it can sustain that amount of traffic with that amount of growth rate all condensed in one little area. As to my understanding that there would be no exit point directly into 14. And to someone that said 22nd Avenue, that's a farm north of there. So I don't see how that would work either to connect that road. But my whole point is that developed area over on CC and 22nd has become massive over there. And the traffic, you guys made the adjustments. The intersections are beautiful now, but it's super busy over there. And the same thing I feel like would happen here. Hartley cannot take any more traffic if there's not a massive adjustment made. Is it Sailors? Say that little intersection down the road. We've got people coming in from Sparta, maybe even Rogersville area, out the Linden Lower area. It's a main access point for multiple different counties or country. People that live out that way, they come down Hartley as well. So that's what I have to say. It would be a massive congestion right there. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Not quite as short as I thought today. No offense, I love short people. Micah Spanner, 1403 East Hartley Street. Now, I'm going to try not to echo what everyone has said tonight, but I do have one question. So, and this may be for Mr. Sayer here. I assume that this southern piece of the property is going to have access to Hartley in some fashion, correct? Okay. Then I would agree with everyone here tonight who has said that Hartley cannot take that level of traffic. And I understand that there need to be traffic studies, but I don't know if those studies will reach all the way down to 1403, which is nearly at the corner of 14th and Hartley, where I will have 30, 40 cars backed up, and there's no way I can even back up out of my driveway. And that's as it currently is. Now imagine putting, I have no idea. We'll say 500 more residents, and we'll just be conservative and say another 150 cars there. I don't know that the infrastructure is really built to handle that. But on a more general note, I will say that if you move to approve the rezoning to multifamily, you will be blatantly ignoring the voices of an entire community of people who have told you, well, represented by about 12 folks that even know that this is happening. We don't want our small town to grow. We like our town small. And if you want to approve more multifamily housing, it's just going to grow and grow and grow, and Ozark will lose its small town charm. So I want to ask you to please consider as silly as this sounds, our feelings when you approve or deny certain zoning requests like this.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'll try not to reiterate what I've already said, other than to say, as others have said, that with respect to the multifamily housing,
You need his name and address again? Okay, sorry.
the traffic issues are obviously amplified. And again, it's going to be right across the street from the school. The backup at pickup during traffic backup during pickup and drop off times is already pretty severe. This one, I think, this amendment's even different because it's, to my mind, not even consistent with the criteria with which the board uses or the commission uses to decide these amendments. It's not consistent with the area. There's not an apartment unit, multifamily complex for several blocks, not till you get to 14th Avenue, which is an arterial road that feeds directly onto Highway 14. By the time you get out here, you're several blocks of decreasingly less and less dense single family residence. Try to say that right. A question I do want to pose to the commission, because I don't know, is where does the presumption lie there in these amendments? Commissioner Zickafoos, did I get that right? Earlier I heard you say something about we don't want to penalize the landowner. And my understanding is when the landowner purchased this property, he would have purchased it as it is currently zoned. And so my question is he being penalized when we take into consideration some of the things that may militate against these zoning amendments, and even when we deny applications of this sort? I mean, where again, the question I guess as I would pose it is, where does the presumption lie? In favor of whatever is being proposed or in favor of what has already been adopted by prior commissions? As for the 2019 commission study, the pre-map plan or the pre-zoning plan or whatever it's called designates this for single family use. Another question I want to pose, because I read through that document, and one of the things I took away from it is that Ozark's not growing like it was for the past, and correct you guys when you open things up to yourselves can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not growing like it was for 25 or so years. And that document is all about, okay, let's take a step back. We're not growing at double-digit percent, population growth every decade. So let's take a step back and let's develop. We just did 30 years of sprawl, and we ended up with this zoning map that is a patchwork, and there's all these areas that need to be infilled and, closer into the city center. And let's not just engage at this point, because we have the luxury, because we're not growing quite as fast. Let's not engage in this just kind of blind, low-hanging fruit type sprawling development. And so I think that's what this is. I don't think it's a logical place for an apartment complex, given the concerns about the road, given the school, given the area. I mean, if you look at the criteria, the existing uses, again, for several blocks are single family. The trend of development is, yes, Hartley Road is being developed, but not it's being developed. Subdivisions, single family subdivisions are being built. I mean, I know from talking to a lot of people around Hartley, they've borne witness to these developments, to pasture and large estate type properties being repurposed as developments. And I think that is kind of the classic 20th century kind of urban development type plan. So I would just encourage to kind of, as a citizen and someone who's obviously affected by this, to consider kind of some of the principles that were articulated in that 2019 document. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Monty Horning, 1509 East Hartley, again representing 4 voters. I don't have a problem reiterating what I said a while ago, because obviously you guys weren't listening to all the people that spoke. This is a bad idea. And as far as punishing the property owner, I think he said it very well. I was thinking it, you just beat me up here, unfortunately. When I buy a piece of property next to you that's zone residential, and I decide that I want it zoned so I can open a slaughterhouse there, are you going to oppose that? I think you would. So would that be punishing me? When I bought the property knowing how it was already zoned, hoping that it would get changed? That's not punishing the property owner. Be realistic. So again, several people have spoken about this. The people from the neighborhood and beyond, because it will affect more than just Hartley Road. They have told you this is not a good idea. For there to be a traffic study, you're going to have to study it from that property all the way down here to the square, because that's where the traffic flows. So unless you're going to improve that entire road, that's not going to happen. You guys know that. So the people have been here and spoken. So do what you will. And a lot of us will remember, we'll show up to the council meeting and speak again. So that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Micah Spanner, 1403 East Hartley. I just had another couple questions for Mr. Sayer, if I may.
Sure.
So why,
Sure, yes.
Should the public be addressing the
Oh,
commission or the?
Excuse me, you're right. You need to address us the questions and then we'll bring him up when we have
fair enough.
our time. Sorry. Thank you.
All right. Well, my question is why the split in the property? Why not just make it all single family zoning? What was the, I would like to know what the thinking was in making that split. Because it would seem to me very logical. And in fact, I'd be for it if you wanted to just make the whole thing single zoning. You know, give space for a few more families that are going to Ozark East to have a nice little plot of land.
You said you had two questions or just?
That was it.
Okay.
I'll go back now.
We'll get your answer when we come to the commission point. I apologize for my break away from rules.
It was probably about 23 years ago. The very intersection that the Spanners live at, about an 8-year-old kid got run over and killed out there. It was a foggy morning.
I need your name and address.
Oh,
one more
John
time,
Mitchell,
please.
804 South 10th Avenue, sorry. An 18-year-old kid hit him. But the point is that intersection does have a visibility problem. It was an accident. People do need to drive correctly. But about the police to police our street, I think I know the reason why I never see them out there is that there's nowhere for them to hide. There's nowhere to pull them over. That whole street, all the way from what we're talking about here, is not designed for the kind of traffic we're talking about, folks.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Don Ligon, 1507 East Hartley Street Road. My only question is, I'm going to address it to you.
Mhm.
Has this land been sold or is it contingent on this zoning change? Does anyone
I
know
do
that
not have
answer?
that information. We'll see.
Will
if we can
anyone get that
acquire it. We
information?
can get it for you.
Because this property's been for sale for a while. And the only reason I'm thinking they're wanting that high density, that's the only way it can pay for itself. And once you zone that for high density, there's other narrow properties that'll give other developers to come in there and say, hey, you zone this multifamily, why aren't you going to zone mine now? I know they got to go through traffic studies, but once you get a different zoning in, it can keep going on down the road or other places. I don't mind single family homes. I don't like decreasing 8,000 square foot lots because you can jump from one neighbor's house to the other. I'm looking for a new home and I see that more in the new subdivisions is what they're doing. But my only objection is keep it or whatever it is, even 1A or whatever, but keep the apartments out because we don't know how tall these apartments are going to be or how many people, right? Is there a density study to that? I mean, I can't,
There-
like, if they bring an
R-
apartment, can they bring a
R3
5-story apartment
R3
building?
has specific restrictions to it, yes.
What's the height?
I don't have that information in my.
How many stories?
Go
Do you want me
ahead.
to answer that?
Well, actually, we can't answer that because nothing's been proposed
Yeah.
of what they're going to do.
I'm just asking, how many stories can they go?
I want to clarify, R3 is
Okay.
not apartments. R3 is townhomes up to 8 units per building or R2, 2-family buildings. They are not apartments
Thank you for
allowed
that.
in R3.
Thank
So
you for
they're
that.
not apartments,
There'll be townhomes or what was the other? I'm sorry.
duplex.
Duplexes,
2-family.
Or two-family duplex.
I've owned that. Well, I still think it should be kept single family, but anyway, thank you again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mark Besh, 753 Cash Spring Road. I'd like to straighten something out first. I did not stereotype low-income people. I did not say all low-income people. Okay? Just want to put that out there first. Second, this may not look like a lot of people here, and I'm gonna tell you one of the reasons why. The zoning sign that was placed over there by the school, you know where I found it? Up against the barbed wire fence facing parallel to the road where no one catches it until it catches their eye and they're gone. Okay, I turned it around and put it on them where it's perpendicular to where the people can see this sign. That's why there's no people here. Because there's no reason for them to be here because they didn't see the sign. Okay, and I agree with every one of these folks that say this is a denial of what they agreed to on their signing of their loan, saying this would be residential. And your constituents, and I promise you, if they knew it, the whole town would be here with this. Okay? But building these complexes, I know exactly what's going to happen with it. Again, I'll bring up the sheriff's department. I know exactly what happens with these complexes. It's all beautiful when they first start. And then 5, 10 years down the road, then you really get to see what you have a product in your city. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. One more, that'd be fine.
Question. I noticed around Ozark, there is plenty of well, you said they're not apartments though, but there's plenty of apartment complexes going up. But I just lost my train of thought because if they're not apartments, then it's fine. But I still want to say the density of that is, I think it's going to exceed what it should be. But anyway.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no movement, I'll go ahead and close the public portion of this application. And we'll turn it over to the commission. Mr. Sayer, would you come forward for a question? I was actually going to ask the same question, and I already know the answer, but let's say, let's verbalize it. Why the split between the zonings?
Well, in early conversations about how to develop this property, the developer or Mr. Williams wanted to do all R3. And because the single family is out there and touching the east and the west side and it's across from the school, we talked through it here at the city and just amongst ourselves. And I think he reached out to some other folks, but it was kind of a consensus that we needed to leave single family up against Hartley and make the R3 or the multifamily back where it touched the commercial. That is pretty consistent with how you kind of filter down in zoning or filter up. It can go both ways. So that was the reason that it was split. He did not want to, that just changed his mind. So.
Good enough?
All
Thank you. Oh,
Yes,
go ahead.
Suzanne.
If anybody, I'll stay up here if anybody else got questions. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Has there been any attempt to see if you can get access onto 14 through St. Eastman and across, is it Ghirardelli's or I don't know how you pronounce their, the storage place?
No.
Has anyone tried to do that? Is
No.
it something you might, if this doesn't go through this time, is there any way that you could potentially go back and ask them if they would be willing to sell or provide an easement across the east part of their property?
I guess we could, but we're actually meeting all of the requirements for the way that it is now with the two exits onto Hartley for the city. But we could, yes, we could.
Where's your second proposed exit right now? I noticed that you have an easement that's built into the track 2 description. But
Well, there would be an exit onto Hartley, 150 foot from the west property line, and then one from the east property line.
So it's gonna split that zone, the school zone, one on each side of it.
Yes.
That was my questions.
Okay.
You got a question?
Sure, just a general
Go
question.
ahead.
What is the owner's or developer's current vision or conceptual plan for the multifamily portion?
It is going to be made up of fourplexes. We don't have an exact count. We're in the conceptual stage. But that is what it's going to be made up of. Yep.
Go ahead and we'll call you back if we have any
Oh,
more.
I've got one
Oh, you got
more.
one?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Lacey.
At this point with the fourplexes, would they be two-level, like multi-level? And I know you probably don't have it
Well,
fully planned out.
there's been conversation.
Okay.
They would most likely be two-story.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
All right.
You may have a seat. Thank you. I guess I'll start it off. Cameron, when this gentleman mentioned 2019, is that when our last comprehensive plan was completed? Was that 2019 or is that a different date? I'm thinking that's not right, but is that right?
It sounds like he's making reference to the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive
Okay.
plan was drafted 2018 and was adopted February 19.
20, okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Who said, somebody say something?
No.
Jump in.
I'm still thinking, but I do just,
Okay.
I do want to make a statement for the public to know that we're only accepting applications. We're not dictating or suggesting to people, hey, you should buy this, you should rezone this. We're only taking things as they're approached to us. So as far as planning goes, we can only accept or deny what's brought to us rather than dictate to people where they should go. And so our only ability is to take what we have. And just to keep that, in mind, we're not dictating how Ozark should be built. The citizens themselves get to decide and ask us how we should change the city, and we can work accordingly. And the same questions I have is what everybody else has already asked.
Okay,
So that's all.
go ahead, Chad.
I think just to add to what Adam was saying, the commission has, 6 specific findings of facts that we evaluate each application on, and if it meets those criteria, then we recommend approval to the board. It's ultimately up to the Board of Aldermen on whether they approve it or deny it. We make a recommendation to the aldermen, so we don't have really any. We're not having, any authority to approve or deny anything. We make a recommendation. So, and those 6 criteria are very specific. And really the biggest one that jumps out to me is, does it fall in the city's comprehensive plan? And, based off the staff report, they do say it is an appropriate zoning for the parcel, and it provides that transitional zoning between the single family and the commercial and industrial to the south and the west, and it creates that buffer, between the two. So, and then, is it a spot zoning? And no, it's not. And, we've evaluated the existing, anyway, though, that's the 6 things that we take into consideration when we make our recommendations are those, and that's what it really falls to. And, I was glad to hear the owner's representative state that they are just proposing fourplexes, maximum 2 stories. So the fourplexes themselves won't be any taller than a single family residence as far as, you know, overseeing into backyards or adjoining properties. They'd be the same height as the single family. So anyway, just wanted to add Adam's comments.
And to add on to the question, just for clarification's sake, this one entire parcel was the R1A, and this exact designation, these weren't 2 parcels that were both R1A. This was one parcel that was brought forth specifically for these 2 different rezonings. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe the
Not quite sure I
entire
follow the
acre-
question, but so the original U-shape and the house was originally one tract and it was brought in.
Right.
Annexed as R1A. That tract was split off. And then following that, recent months, the 2 parcels on the agenda tonight were split.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so they're already split.
yes, they are.
Okay.
split.
That leads me to another question, Cameron. So there are 2 existing lots today that they want to rezone. So, and this is just for my own knowledge, it maybe the public's, but there isn't a requirement in city code that all lots must have street frontage. You can create lots that don't have street frontage.
In this situation, it doesn't have a street frontage. It doesn't require that because it's got an access easement. There is a recorded access easement to get to this parcel.
I don't express myself well sometimes, so bear with me. I'm not arguing, but one of our requirements is that it not cause a spot zoning. To me, this is plopping it right down in the middle of industrial and single family and what else? Residential, storage, facility, industrial, vacant. Is there a definition behind spot zoning? I'll just present that to you.
Yeah, this would not qualify as spot zoning. When spot zoning intends to clarify is if you had a single family subdivision, for instance, and in the middle of that subdivision, you spot zone to say R3, R4, commercial, whatever, when you're surrounded completely by single family. In this situation, you are in transitional zoning where you have single family on one side, you go to a commercial, industrial, and that's why we have our buffer yard requirements, setback requirements as you abut a different use. So no, this would not be considered a spot zoning scenario.
Okay, needed that clarification. And then also you mentioned for my next question, the buffer yard, the buffer zones, what have you. I think I read it's going to include A, B, and C depending on what it borders, correct? There's different buffers.
Yep. That's correct. As the intensity increases, the buffer yard increases as well. So in this scenario, we have A, B, and C because there's a single family zoning on one side, commercial zoning on one side, and industrial. So single family would have the A, commercial would have a B, and industrial would have the C.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Trevor, yes, sir.
I just want to clarify, and after this rezoning application and vote goes to the Board of Aldermen, after that, there's a process of platting where the designs are brought forth for us to consider more things. After that, there's additional steps. I just wanted to point that out so that we have a great opportunity for the public to come and have their voices heard. This is just the first step of many. And I just wanted to emphasize and clarify that there's more opportunities in the future to have voices heard and in this situation.
Yes, if there's additional subdivision requirements to create the tracts of land, then it would have to come back before the commission and the Board of Aldermen for approval.
Thank you, Trevor. You haven't spoke. I have to say you don't have anything or you do. I'm gonna make my rounds. I can come back. Suzanne, you good?
Good.
You covered? Pete?
I'll go ahead and add something as well.
Please, we made ample effect and respect for everyone that spoke. Please give the commissioners the same respect.
After the zoning, there has to be the plating, and the plating is requiring the traffic studies. And right now, there's not anything in the plans or in the works that I know of as far as your concerns with the traffic as it is now. And when traffic studies are done and there are requirements that have to be made, and the plats will not go forward and the final plat won't be given until after those traffic studies are done, and that there's either improvements made or it doesn't pass. So there's those steps that still have to be done. And at this particular point, we have no idea what it's going to be. Obviously, there'll probably be more people, more cars, but we don't know. We don't know how much. So right now, this is what we have to work with. This is what we have to look at. So again, like was said, you have opportunity for the final plat or the preliminary plat first, and then the final plat, as well as the Board of Aldermen. So you have chances. It's not that we don't hear anybody or any of those things, but this is what our job is at this particular point in time.
Thank you, Pete. Lacey? Okay. Adam, you got something? You ready to
Yeah,
punch the button?
Yeah, sorry. One more thing. Just like the single parcel has now been split into two. If in the future, let's say there's different public opinion on this parcel could also be split up. And it's, depending on public opinion, depending on how things get developed in the plat and things. At any part of this might need to be renegotiated at a further time to a different zoning based on a preliminary plat. I'm thinking, you've got commercial industrial, but you also have county residential, there may need to be even more fine tuning of the parcel, that even if it gets approved R3 now, there could have to be fine tuning in order for a plat to move forward. And so this is, preliminary. And so even if I think a supportive measure would happen, it does not leave out the fact that maybe it would need to be adjusted in the future based on different plans. And I do appreciate the R1 buffer on Hartley, as I think that's an important step in the process. So I just want that to be noted.
Okay, thank you. Trevor? You good? Chad?
Just gonna add, I agree with what the other commissioners have said, and to add to that, I mean, they still have to do the stormwater report, which is gonna have requirements for detention basins and water quality features, which is gonna reduce the square footage that they're gonna be able to develop homes on, soil surveys, the traffic impact study. I mean, the study may come back and show all kinds of improvements are needed on Hartley, and they may not want to do that or have the means to do that. So they may have to scale back the development. So, maybe, there's less fourplexes than what they plan, because of the required improvements for the denser development. So, this is just step one. And as they move through it, things may be adjusted and changed and so forth. And, well, I can just say the traffic on Hartley Road does not compare to the traffic at CC and 22nd Street. they're on different scales. I agree, CC and 22nd is bad, is congested with the interchange and the signal there at the come and go and so forth. But I don't think it's a good comparison to this area of town. But anyway, with that, that's all the comments I have. I plan to support it.
Okay. There's, please. The public portion is closed, please. Headley. You're up. If you have anything. Are you good?
I think I said kind of my thoughts before. I still worry just about the more people here, and I just really worried about the kids crossing that street to that school. I think that's just kind of my piece. I think I may feel differently if the plot was next door to the school, because I see how many kids kind of come back. I think it's off of Samuel there, kind of that tailway. There's a way to connect back through the school. And I know one of the gentlemen mentioned, I think it was 8 years ago, that a kid died when it's foggy. But like, I think in the morning time, even the elementary starts later, it's still dark. So, I mean, I think my reservations are with it being across the street. So, I mean, I know I voted the way that I did before, and I'll vote how I feel accordingly soon. But I think that's just probably my big reservations, is just kind of putting a lot of homes right across from the street. And I kind of do see some of the concerns of the community, that people do fly down that road and all that stuff. And I mean, so I think that's kind of my reservations, but I think you guys kind of, had questions and kind of talked through the process, but I think it's important for people to understand the process.
And always remember, as we move forward on any application, we motion to approve everything in a positive motion. And then if you want to deny, nay, you vote nay. But everything is brought about in a motion in a positive, okay? So we are, if everyone has said and asked everything they need to ask, then we are ready for a motion. Yes, sir.
I move to recommend approval of zoning amendment 24-0005 as presented in the staff report and by staff's recommendations.
I'll second.
Had a second. Roll call vote, please. Megan, when you get there.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Thank you. And that takes care of our applications for the night. We'll move into a commission discussion with staff on number 5, letter A, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the city of Ozark, Missouri, chapter 410, subdivision regulations. Cameron, I'll turn the floor to you when you're ready. It is cold in here.
Yes, back in front of you is the draft of the subdivision ordinance. Staff is not asking for a decision tonight from the commission. We anticipate bringing that back next month for potential final action. Just want to highlight some of the changes since the last time you've looked at it. We did add some notes in here just to kind of help highlight those, and you just kind of scroll through here. So a lot of the changes from the last time is really just reordering some of the sections. Some sections have been moved around to better flow with this ordinance. And then also some articles have been consolidated where they most appropriately fit. So just scrolling on through the ordinance, still the highlighted sections, they're underlined or stricken either way of a color of blue that are the proposed changes that we had the last time as well. Again, the minor subdivision, this section has been moved again to better flow with this ordinance. There are some minor tweaks that we have changed just of clarifying some verbiage that more appropriately falls within our ordinances as far as titles of staff or who reviews those sections of the subdivision requirements. So section here about the approval, we've made some updates here to better reflect kind of the process as a subdivision comes through the commission board and staff as well for approval. So just some of those changes make reflection of that process. This section about the requirements for what's submitted with the preliminary plat. We have made some additional updates to this just to clarify what staff is expecting to see along with the commission board when a preliminary plat is submitted. So again, we've outlined, we've always had a checklist of what's required to be submitted that went along with the ordinance. However, the ordinance didn't have everything in that that was in the checklist. So again, these proposed changes, what we're asking for to be submitted with the preliminary plat for review by staff, the commission and board. Some of the highlights, as noted before, is in regards to subdivision sign, making sure they're in appropriate easement, not in right of way, not in utility easements. The 2 points of access, we still have that language in there. There was a clause in there for hardship when it's just not feasible based on existing development of surrounding property, or because the topography is just not feasible to get a road in there. There is a clause in there where they don't have to have that both access points, and they can defer back to the fire code of that no more of the homes on one singular access of 30 or more. And then if so, then they can look at a sprinkling those homes or potentially get an approval from the fire department. So again, we clarify that hardship in here with that.
Can I interject
Yep.
something real quick? The hardship's in there, but we talked briefly the other day about having to go through the variance board. That does not apply here. correct?
No, we are not asking for a variance on the hardship. It's
Okay.
determined by the ordinance by staff to get it on the agenda. And then once it's on the agenda, the commission and board can further evaluate that.
Okay.
Keep scrolling through, trying to highlight what was changed from the last time. I think for the most part, the rest of this is what you had seen at the last meeting. Again, in here, there is the notification of the required professional engineered stormwater analysis and the traffic impact study. We're clarifying that that is required to be submitted, as we've always have required that, but it's never been codified in the ordinance. In most cases, we also partner with OSRD, the Ozark Special Road District, as a lot of the subdivisions, when we see these, do tie into some of their road frontages. In addition, MoDOT, but we don't see those on a regular basis. I'm not sure there's a lot more changes since the last time. I do want to clarify, there's still some discussion, and that's why we don't, well, that's not really why, but we anticipate having it clarified by the next meeting about the park impact fees. There's still some discussions going on among staff about collecting those fees. So that could change from this draft to the next month. Again, same with the preliminary plat, the final plat, we are noting the same requirements just to go ahead and codify those and clarifying that with submittals. The final plat is an administrative approval based on the approval of the preliminary plat. But again, we're requiring to have those submitted with the final plat. There was a double section of the dedicated public property or dedicated property for the HOA and dedicated to the public, and for meaning the public as the residents in a subdivision. Just deleting some repetitive information there. Scrolling on through. Fairly lengthy ordinance. It's taken several months to kind of get through this. Hopefully next meeting we'll have it finalized. I think that may be sidewalk infrastructure. Again, just moving some things around to consolidate the ordinance. And that's all the changes that's highlighted since the last time. Following the last meeting, staff didn't get a lot of feedback, so most of the changes have come from just internal and staff. So if the commission has any additional changes, requests, please let us know. And then we'll either address those before the meeting or bring that proposed revision back to the commission. With that, be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. You okay if I go, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Okay, so my question just is on the planning and zoning. So I know Jeff said earlier that we need to put it in the positive that we'll approve it. But it says here that they can recommend approval with modifications or disapproval. So at our vote, we approve it like we did tonight. I think it was a few months ago, we approved something with a modification, I think with a restriction, or we can disapprove it. So do we have any of those three choices going forward for our vote? Is that correct?
That is correct. You can make a recommendation to approve with revisions
Okay.
or deny it. And either the
Okay.
applicant can take that forward or bring it back to the commission if
Okay.
they choose.
And then there was something else in here that said, if we deny it, that we need to do something within 10 days. So does that come from our comments? It was here, it said that, the commission shall provide a statement for reasons for such action, return it to applicant within 10 business days. So does that come from our commentary and things like that? Or is that something we need to follow up formally when we disapprove something?
No, based on the findings of the meeting, staff will compile that information and present that back to
Okay,
them. Yeah.
okay, thanks.
So with that being clarified, did I misspeak?
I don't think so. The motion still has to always be made in the positive, in the affirmative.
Well, by ordinance, you can make a motion to approve or motion to deny by our ordinance.
By the Robert's rules, our motions.
We've
typically
never
affirmative.
adopted the Robert's rules.
Well, but to clarify that so everybody's clear, if you make a motion to deny, then you have to vote yes to deny
Yeah.
and nay to not deny.
Yeah, that
What
is
I'm trying
correct.
to get to. I just
You'd
want
have
to make
to-
sure everybody understands. I don't want it to be confusing.
That is correct. You would have to clarify or I guess be cautious on how you vote
Right,
based on the motion.
right, okay.
And also, is it in
Go ahead.
effect now?
Go ahead.
Is that new or is that in effect now?
That's always been in the ordinance. We have not modified that.
Oh, okay.
That's always been in there.
I'll take the blame for that.
Oh,
I thought we did. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just add my 2 cents. I think it's better to make it in the affirmative. It makes the vote clear, and then every one of us may be against it, and we may all vote no, but anyway, my 2 cents. So a couple questions, and I think I know the answers to it, and a couple comments. First of all, staff, just thanks for all your hard work on this. It looks really good. So when you go through the subdivision process, Cameron, there's requirements for minimum right of way to be dedicated along existing streets or for new streets, both, correct?
That's correct. When we look at a subdivision application, whether it's a major subdivision, a minor subdivision, and a lot of times even lot splits or lot line adjustments, staff will evaluate that based on the major thoroughfare plan and the classifications of streets and evaluate if additional right of way is needed, whether it's a city street. If it's not city, then we'll relay that to OSRD, allow them to make that determination, and MoDOT as well. But in most cases, our Public Works Department is great at knowing kind of what the anticipation is, and we'll kind of address that even in preliminary conversations. You'll probably have to be dedicating some additional right of way.
So second part of that question, so for an administrative, and that may be the wrong term, but for a lot line adjustment, the applicant would still be required to dedicate additional right of way if they didn't meet the minimums or not?
That would be up to the Public Works Department to make that determination. I'm not going to say that in all cases that would occur. We had a situation where there was a lot combination, so like a lot line adjustment, where depending on the situation of the street, it was on a corner, really narrow street. They did require additional right of way. They took 4 small lots combined into one that was bordered on 3 sides by right of way. In that situation, they did require the additional right of way and a site triangle on the corner. But in other situations, kind of down the road from there, depending on kind of what's going on around there and the lack of development, they have not required that additional right of way.
Okay. The reason I ask these questions, because I think for a lot line adjustment, if we hold to this 5 criteria for a lot line adjustment, I think it's perfectly fine But what I have seen is that lot line adjustments sometimes get abused, and they get used to get around other requirements of subdivision code. And so if we hold them to these 5 criteria, I think it's fine, but what I've seen numerous times in the past, people come in, maybe they own both lots, maybe it's 2 separate owners, but they want to move the lot line for pure benefit of themselves, so it fits that development that they want to do. It's not a dispute on a property line, it's not an encroachment on a building. It's solely so they can change the shapes and sizes of the lots so they can develop it in the way they want. And then they get away from maybe other public improvements that are required. They get away from dedication of right of way. So again, I just want to make those comments that if we hold to this, I'm fine with it. But if there's other things that are allowed, we just need to be aware of that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of really abusing anything on
Okay.
our.
And it may
part,
not
But yeah,
happen
Yeah.
too much down here, but so last comments, I guess I just would make a suggestion or a recommendation to staff to relook into allowing property to be subdivided without street frontage. And my concern with that is if you subdivide a lot and maybe its only access is through an easement, what happens if that easement isn't maintained? What happens if it gets blocked by something, if it falls apart? And so then who's responsible for making those improvements? Where if a lot has a street frontage, then they always have guaranteed access, ingress, egress out of that piece of property. So, and the same thing maybe with public sewer. If you don't have street frontage and you only have the easement, can you get the sewer down the easement, or is it so restricted that it's for access only? And so I guess I would just ask staff to look at that again and maybe consider a requirement of subdivision that all lots have some minimum street frontage. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Floor's still open. A lot of information to read and digest, so. Oh,
So
yes, Suzanne.
I have a question. Is there anything that addresses clear boundary disputes and something that's trying to be developed? In the past, I've had a client who basically had 10, wedged between 10 and I think it was 18 feet of their property that was included in a subdivision next door. And we couldn't fight it, even though there was multiple surveys that showed that the property was not, that didn't belong to the developer to develop, but we couldn't get court dates or anything fast enough to compete against the rate at which something can be put through this commission.
Yeah. The only thing we have is just to follow the requirements based on the land surveying requirements, but in those situations, that's not nothing in a codified code. That is a civil matter that would have to be handled.
The problem is that after everything was done, we got our court date, we won. And what do you do when you have a strip of land 15 feet of your neighbor's subdivision?
Yeah.
You can't, you just have to basically quit claim it to them because there's not a whole lot you can do at that point.
Yeah. I'm not sure there is a way in a code or on staff to make that final determination. Again, I think that's going to come back to who's right and who's wrong and let the courts decide that.
You can't go fast
Can't
enough
go
in the
fast
courts.
enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a downturn. Anyone else? Or if you're gonna be like me, I'm gonna have to digest for a while. Lot of information, good information by far. But I don't want to leave anyone out with questions or comments on the rewrite. Everybody good? Then we'll move right on. If we have any commission comments in general? Yes.
Hey, two quick
Bradley.
things. Make sure you support our local businesses. I tried that new bakery in downtown. It's really good. The one where Stacy Sweets was. So if you haven't tried that yet, just make sure you buy your ducks. Ducks are for sale for the duck race. If you don't know who to donate them to, please donate them to Care to Learn because it really helps our kids.
Yep, agreed. Suzanne, anything? I'm making my rounds. Pete? I'm good. Lacey? Trevor? Adam? I've heard that. That's- Oh, just, I understand. Chad? Administrative comments, Cameron? Nothing? Megan? Okay. Mr. Mayor, you're here. You good? Okay. Then we are looking for a motion to adjourn from someone. Right there's one.
I'll second.
Let Suzanne have it. I did it again.
I'll second.
And they all said aye. Thank you, commissioners.